Anyway, last week I was in a rush to go run to the store and get this collection. But when I did the Hawaii look, I wanted to talk about when I lived in Hawaii. Um, what my experience was, what my observations were. Um, when I had told you my parents were very strict, and um, they did the best that they can do. I did the same thing with my oldest, not as strict as my parents, but I was strict. And I ran away from home at 16 because I thought, I want my freedom, and I ran away from home to my then boyfriend's house. And it was an ugly, horrible, disgusting mess. And basically, the bottom line was if we still wanted to see each other, then we had to get married. I had lied and said I was pregnant. I wasn't. And they just, they were like, if you want to stay together, you got to get married, my parents. And living with him, I had to live with his family, and that was horrible. They believe that incest was an expression of love. Found out that his grandfather used to touch, his mother and sisters, and so that stuff is learned, and they, in turn felt that that's just love, and there was a lot of really, really horrible, nasty stuff going on. And on top of that, her father, my daughter's father, was a narcissist, and I wasn't his equal. I was his possession. I couldn't go to the store because he thought somebody would find me beautiful, and take me away from him. Insecurity much. So I got hit a lot, and I always had a big mouth. I was very defensive. I spoke my mind, and his family encouraged him, to put me in my place and hit me. They didn't like me. But just to show you what a narcissist he was, he told my mother, he said, to prove to you how much I love your daughter, I want you to know that she's not a virgin and I'm still marrying her. So he caused me grief. My mother told my father, and just a lot of grief. A lot of grief that man gave me. It's my fault every time he hit me. Getting kind of personal here, I used to call him Speedy Gonzalez. And I never enjoyed intercourse. And one time, him and his brothers were talking, and just degrading, and saying that I loved his penis. So I got upset, and I said, I love your penis so much that I've never had an orgasm. Because they were just being degrading. He would talk about other women in front of me. He would, talk about their big boobs, or he would talk about how he would like to, F that, and, look at other women, and just... Anyway, so I was upset, and I said that. And I didn't even see it coming. Wham! Punched me so hard that my tooth went almost through my lip. Right here, I have a little scar. And my whole face swelled up. It was just horrible, horrible, horrible. And and we were in the car, and I don't remember if it was as soon as the car stopped or where we went to our destination. I went to my mom's house, If my family gave me a couple of dollars for the bus or the train to go visit, I would put it in my drawer. He would steal it. Maybe other people stole it too. I don't know. Other, brothers and sisters or something. It was really bad. They gaslight you. They do something wrong, and then they'll turn around and say you did it. Or, like, for example, he told my mother, can I use the phone to call long distance? And my mom said, only if you promise to pay me back. I told my mother, he is not going to pay you back. And 2 months later, she said, where's her money? She got the bill. And he said to me, don't you remember? I paid her. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he just kept saying, don't you remember? Don't you remember? And in your mind, you're like, did he? You start to question yourself. And I remember telling my mom, I said, he said he paid you. And she said, do you believe him? I said, I vaguely remember something, but I told you, you can't trust him to pay you back. So, those are the type of things that he did. And every time they hit you, when he used, I would be angry. And I wouldn't cook for him, or, I'd go out with whatever. I would save pennies in a jar. Pennies, nickels, dimes. I'll go to McDonald's and get me and my daughter something I wouldn't cook, and then he'd be crying to his mother. Call her long distance to say that I haven't cooked for her, crying, and he's hungry. And I find that a lot of men like that, their families, their parents enabled them. And she's like, please don't leave my son hungry. These are the type of things that I went through. He was abusive, and then they always say they're sorry, and then they you want to believe it, that they're sorry, and you make up with them, and it's always the same crap. I used to, at the time, in the early 80s, it was all the teenagers had bells on their sneakers, and his mother told him that he didn't like the bells, that she didn't like the bells, and for me to take them off. I said, but it's the style. And one time we were in the train station, and he said, if you don't take off those bells, I'm going to leave you here. And I really didn't have any money, and he left me alone in the train station. I had no money, so I just threw the bells. And he said, okay. I said, okay, I did it. Now don't you feel better? He said, just narcissism is an ugly, awful thing. They're never at fault. Everything bad they do is your fault. They will gaslight you into thinking that you're the crazy one. If you think that maybe they were with another girl, they make you look crazy. They make you be the, like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're just crazy. Why you acting like this? He used to flirt with some of his ex-girlfriends in front of me. It was just really ugly. I was with him for about 4 years, but the first year, probably not even a year, it's probably a couple of months, probably 6 or 7 months, him and his friends were talking about, somebody that cheated, and the girl got mad, and they were like, oh, she just needs to shut up and just accept it. I know that growing up, my grandmother used to tell me that men cheat, and it's their divine right to cheat, and we just have to accept it. So when he said that, I was like really upset. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's talking with his friends. Because in my mind, then that means that he's going to cheat on me or has cheated on me. And so, I got upset, and in front of all of his friends, he smacked me. And for me, that was the last straw, because it usually only happened in the home. And I remember I just went shopping for some clothes, and I picked up my bag, and I went to my mother's house, and he, that's what I did. Like I said, I was in the car when he hit me that time with my lips swelled up. That might have been one of the first times he did it, I guess. And I went to my mom's, and my mom started crying, saying, your father never, ever hit me like that. And he promised her he'd never do it again, which was a lie. Just if I went to the store, I would get slapped because, I was trying to find a boyfriend. It was just total insecure. And I mean, I wasn't even alone. I could be with his sister and he would still do that, you know. So that was the last straw for me. So I told him if we're gonna stay together, he needs to move away from his family. I thought that if we moved away from the family, they couldn't influence him anymore. And his uncle convinced him to join the military. He joined the Marine Corps. He didn't even finish school, but that particular year they would take, you had to have a high school diploma, but that particular year they were, I don't know if they were desperate for people or what, but they forewent that. They foregoed the diploma, and he got in, and I found out I was pregnant. So now I felt stuck. And, you know, while he was away, I said, you know, I'm pregnant, I'm living with my family, and, you know, can you please find an apartment so that I can, you know, be with you, because you're the one responsible for me. My family's not, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't do that. He didn't go over there. I mean, while he actually had put in, that you could put in a request for 3 places you want to live, because you're giving about 4 years to the military. And he asked for Hawaii. There were different places you could choose, and that was one of them. And by some miracle, they said, oh, we don't think you're going to get that. It's really hard to get Hawaii. But by some miracle, he got stationed in Hawaii. And he told them, find a place for us to live, because, you know, I'm your wife. You need to take care of me. I'm not giving birth to your child. I didn't have a job. He didn't want me to work. He didn't want me to go to school, you know, because he was so jealous. You know, they don't want you putting on makeup. A narcissist doesn't want you to look pretty, put on makeup or whatever. And some narcissists want eye candy, but then they get jealous when men look at you. With him, no, you can't look pretty, because then other guys are going to want you. And he never got me a place to live, and I gave birth in New York. He didn't even want to send me money. He was such a mama's boy that when they took him to the airport, he was crying to his mother, saying, I'm going to miss you, and as soon as I can, I'll send you money. And here I am pregnant. And he just kissed me on the cheek and said bye. I was like, I need money to see the doctor. I had to fight with him to give me money to see the doctor. And I didn't know that you can have stipends at that time. But I had to fight with him with money. And I put away every penny, every dollar to go to the doctor. And he used to say, oh, that I was just cheap, because I want money to take care of my child. I mean, if he had money, it would be gone. The way that his family did things is, as soon as someone got money, the rest of the family wanted to borrow it, and there was, you know, you came home with nothing. That's how it was with them. And I remember one time the heat wasn't paid. Like when he used to come to visit, I would go over there to be with him. We were sleeping in the basement. At the time, I guess I didn't know that heat rises. We were all sleeping in the basement for body heat, because they didn't pay the heat. And I remember we lived with his parents, and his parents had to claim bankruptcy, and there was no money for food, I remember. And he got paid from the military, and I'm pregnant, and I'm starving. He went out with his family to eat McDonald's and didn't bring me anything. This is the type of marriage I had. And so when he was in Hawaii, and I'm telling him, my daughter needs to be born there, not here with my family, that, I need to be with him. He did have an affair with an underage girl.
Hello?
This is
52.
the kind of life I had. Anyway, my daughter's born, and instead of taking the money to find us an apartment, he paid for a ticket to come to New York. And I was like, instead of taking that money, if you want to see your daughter, get an apartment and send for me. My daughter was waking everybody up, crying in the middle of the night. It was a nightmare. When he got here, he had gotten a cold, I guess, from the heat. I don't know, from the different weather, and his nose is all full of mucus. And he comes in and picks up the baby and start kissing her face. She's only 3 weeks old, kissing her face with all that mucus. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're gonna make her say, oh, you just don't want me to love my daughter. And then he didn't want to give me money when she got sick to go see the doctor, to get her some antibiotics or whatever. So finally, at one time I remember he called me and said, oh, I can't wait till you get here so you could iron these military clothes. I hate this ironing. But anyway, I think it was finally, because he came during the holiday, so I think it was the day before my birthday. Finally, I get the ticket, gets an apartment for me. I was 12 hours on a plane. And I think it was more like 14 hours on the plane. You have to, from New York, you go to California, you refuel California, you get to Hawaii. They had just had a hurricane. There were trees in the streets. I was exhausted. And he says, oh, got to get up bright and early, 5 o'clock, so we can make the All-Star football game. And I was like, what? I'm exhausted. Oh, you just don't want me to go have fun at the football game. Well, you can stay sleeping, but I'm going. I just arrived. OMG. I thought that if I would get him away from his family, things would go well. Here I am. Just got to Hawaii and the problems start. And I'll probably do part 2 next week. But Hawaii is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful paradise that I did not get to enjoy because I was in a living hell. Anyway, my husband just came in. I really don't want to talk about this in front of him. I'll tell you part 2 next week. Probably do sugar pill or something. So, just wanted to get started on telling you about my life. And when I did the Hawaii palette, it reminded me about that. So I just wanted to give you tell you my story. Okay, I will finish next week. Love you. Bye.